Welcome, everyone. Just give people a couple of minutes to get into the conference to join, and then we'll make a start. As you're joining, if you can pop into the chat, if you can just say hello to us, and let us know where you're joining from, and if you have students with you, how many students you have with you, that would be great. Morning to all our wonderful students out there. And it's also Mental Health Day, isn't it? We're celebrating that as well today. What a wonderful day to have the conference. Happy Tuesday indeed. Fantastic. And thank you to all NCFE colleagues that are joining us today. And of course, the time that has been committed by our external guest speakers. We are so, so grateful. Thank you for joining us today. I can say to all the students that are joining, you're in for an absolutely wonderful session this morning. Okay, so we'll make a start. I'm aware that people will start to join us as we get going, but we are just over the 10:30 mark, so we'll make a little start. And the first thing I want to do is just welcome you all to our student conference. I couldn't believe it when my colleagues told me that this is our seventh student conference, which is absolutely something to celebrate. So a massive welcome to everybody. We've got a packed morning, as I say, going over into the afternoon as well. And we've got a wealth of guests who are going to share their career journeys with you, raise your aspirations, and inspire us all along the way. When I speak to students, these conferences are for you. They're for our students, and we love to hear your voice. We'll leave the chat function open, and please do write any questions or any thoughts in there. And we want to celebrate the professional journey that you've already started. So the first thing to say is congratulations for being on such an exciting and rewarding journey and career. When you listen to the guests that you're going to listen to today, you will be absolutely blown away by the things that they've achieved and the differences that they continue to make across the sector in education and early years. And I think that also acts as a reminder of why we do what we do and the difference that you too will make. So let's just have a quick look at the agenda. Before we do, I just want to let you know that this session will be recorded. It's being recorded now, and it will be available to people that have registered, hopefully tomorrow, but certainly as soon as we possibly can share it. So we can see just how packed our conference is there by taking a look at the agenda. And what we'd like you to do is, as a way of an icebreaker, if you like, because I'd like to think that we're all part of this community in education and early years, and we're all here to support each other and with that common goal of making a positive difference for babies, children and their families. That's what we're doing, what we do for. That's what we're all about, isn't it? And there are many different career journeys and many different points in our journeys where we take that time for professional development and reflective practice. And this is just going to be part of that. So in the agenda here, you can see that we start with those icebreakers. So use the chat function. Please do use the chat function to tell us where you think your journey is going to take you, what you think you would like to do when you've finished your qualification, or the types of journeys that you've had yourselves if you're coming on as a qualified professional. We'll take a look and keep those chats coming, because we'll keep referring to those and pick up with those as we go. We're going to hear from Dawn Newman, who will talk to us about the alumni and how that works as part of our career journey. We'll also take some time to listen to our NCFE CASH and NCFE subject specialists, and they'll talk us through occupational maps and career journeys. We're then going to hear from Laura, and Laura will talk to us about exploring the rewards and challenges of careers in residential childcare. We'll carry on looking at diverse occupations by looking at hospital play specialists and play work in prisons, as well as exploring opportunities at university, and that's with Leeds Beckett University with Nikki and Emma. We're then going to look at student experiences, and we're very fortunate to have an early years manager, so busy, all of the time, very busy. And Kelly, thank you so much for coming along and for bringing Amy, one of your apprentices, along to talk to us so that we can hear that student voice as well. We've then got Louisa and Amy, who are going to talk to us about teaching and learning, the life of teaching, the teaching assistant. We'll hear from Louisa and then from Amy. And then we'll have a look at those some inspiring and rewarding experiences as we listen to reflections from a HE student. So we will hear from Star. We're then going to return to Stacey and Angie, our NCFE colleagues, who will take us on a tour of the Careers Toolkit, and Stacey will lead on that. And then, of course, we will take some time, if there's any time left, to take some questions. But please do keep those questions going in the chat so that we can return to those and prepare for some of those in as much time that we have at the end of the session. Okay, so let's move on, and I'm going to ask Dawn if she will talk to us about the CASH alumni event. Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you, Janet. Hello, everybody. I'm going to be very, very quick. I know that you've got loads to pack in today, so you probably don't want to listen to me for too long. But I'm here to have a quick chat about the CASH alumni event that's coming up in November, which is around recharging and reflecting, and make sure that you're looking after yourself as a lovely early years and care person who is really embedded in that idea of looking after other people. I often find when I talk to early years workers who are our members of CASH Alumni, which is a professional development service, which you are very, very welcome to join. It's totally free. You can find that over at cashalumni.org.uk. That people are really good at looking after other people, but maybe you're often at the bottom of your own list. And you'll have heard the phrase "can't pour from an empty cup," and some of those other lovely phrases about looking after yourself so that you can be in the right place to look after other people, like that analogy around putting your own mask on first when you're on an airplane if something goes wrong. So we've decided to have a nice event. So on the 30th of November at 4 o'clock, we'll have a couple of hours, which is all about you and learning to look after yourself to be able to do the things that you want to do to support people. Lovely Harriet has put a link in the chat if you wanted to click on that to be able to sign up for it. Again, it's totally free. And we're going to hear from some really lovely speakers. So we've got a wellbeing expert coming to talk to her about why it's important to look after yourself, and all of the lovely things that you can do to support yourself in how you look after yourself at work and at home, and prioritising self-care. We've got someone who's been on a very interesting journey of their own, who is a lady called Iffy Thomas, who was in the Big Brother house a very long time ago, and has been on Strictly Come Dancing as a dancer, talking about how she's navigated her career alongside the wellbeing challenges that she's had. We have a journaling expert who's going to talk to about reflection and journaling and how we can really make the most of our own reflections and both finding the right way forward, but also on solving those challenges and helping with to let go of some stuff. And then we're going to do some really nice yoga stuff and some a little bit of meditation to sort of bring some calm and figure out how we're best stretch if we're in one place for a really long time, all those different things that we can do. So please come along, please join with. If you can't come along, if you wanted to join Cash Alumni, you'll also be able to access the recording of that session later if the time doesn't work for you. So that's the 30th of November at 4 o'clock. Come along and join us for a lovely, lovely afternoon of nice things to support you in your well-being as you embark on a future where you put yourself first so that you can look after other people.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dawn. That's wonderful. And we do have to remember that and reflect, don't we? And remember that we have to look after ourselves and that's so important. So yeah, great advice. And that sounds like a wonderful opportunity. Okay, I'm going to now hand over to Stacey Mann and Angie Rogers, who are going to take us through the occupational maps and career journeys. Over to you, ladies.
Thanks, Janet. Good morning, everybody. It is lovely to see so many students here today. The question we asked at the start was, what do you want to do? And I think that's a question that we ask a lot of people and children in particular. My own children are being asked all the time, what do you want to do when you grow up? Where do you want to be? And if you're sitting there at the moment thinking, I actually have no idea, then that's okay, because there's twists and turns on that journey. And you'll see from all of the wonderful speakers today how sometimes adversity or a bump in the road has actually been the reason that they are where they are today. So what we really wanted to do today is show you the occupational maps and career journeys that you could potentially take, but also really stress that point that there's lots of different ways that you can go. So I just want to share with you our education and early years careers toolkit, which we're going to go into detail about a little bit later on. So if you go to our NCFE website and go to sector specialisms, under sector specialisms, you will see early years and childcare, and you can find our toolkit there. Underneath in this wonderful toolkit, you have a section that looks at the DFE career pathway map and also the early years T-levels map. So I'm going to take you through this one very briefly and then give you the link for you to be able to see for yourself. So it really starts at 14 to 16. So it shows you the entry levels and the level 1s and the level 2s that you could potentially take. And then it looks into the level 2 early years practitioner. So this is really focusing on your qualifications at the moment. I know quite a lot of you here at the moment are on the T level, and that is right in the centre here that you can see with the core components and your work placements and everything that you're doing at the moment. So do please share with us what you're actually doing right now. And if you are doing the early years and education and childcare T level, you will see all of the other things that you could potentially go on to. So it then shows you the level 5 diplomas, the level 4 certificates are on there as well. And also on the right hand side, you have all of these wonderful lists of different things that you could potentially do. So we're looking here at childminders and nannies, looking at having specialist roles within the setting, such as SENCO or SENCO assistant. You might look at going into safeguarding or into special educational needs and disabilities as leading in that area. I think often you find something that you feel really passionate about or that you're really good at, and then you really run with that. And you may not have found that yet, which is absolutely fine. But hopefully today you'll have a bit of an idea of where you can go in your career. It's very, very exciting. You can then look at the other things on here where we've got specialist roles that look at going into higher education, and you'll be hearing from somebody today about these things as well, such as youth work, play work, early childhood studies, lots of different areas. We're going to be able to see some of those journeys and how they've unfolded from the speakers today. And there's also a special section on our Education and Early Years Toolkit where you can listen to lots of other people as well. Please do ask the questions whilst you're here today. I'm just going to pass you over to Angie now, who's going to take you through the Education, Training and Assessment Progression Map. Angie, are you there?
Hello, and thank you, Stacey. And I just want to say how wonderful it is to have you all with us today. And I can see that so many of you from the chat that we're all over the country. So welcome and thank you. So here we have the Education and Training Assessment Map that shows the progression routes that you may decide to choose and towards a particular career path. And as you can see there, as Stacey said before, there are many twists and turns that guide you down various pathways that maybe suit your interests or perhaps match your particular experiences. So do take a little look at that. But remember, this is only a guide and you are in control of your own destiny. Life, as Stacey said, life's journey will take you on many pathways that each bring with them some valuable experiences that you can carry with you. And each time you're becoming stronger and more confident and perhaps more able to make informed decisions about your own career. So listed here on the map are a few career opportunities that you may decide to take. But please do check out the iFate occupational maps for more information specific to a particular career. And I will add that link to the chat in just a moment because it gives you a little bit more description than shows on the map that's in front of you now. So please do take a look at that occupational map. Or perhaps consider becoming, as you can see there is a list, but you may think about other career pathways. And I'm hoping that that's what you're going to discover from today. For example, have you ever thought of becoming a coach or a mentor, a teaching assistant specialist, or perhaps working with young people, either in secondary or alternative provision, such as our WAVE project that we looked at last time in our student conference? And there are so many other career pathways that Stacey mentioned. For example, you may not have thought of becoming a family support worker, a youth worker, educational psychologist, social worker, learning support assistant. So this is, of course, not an exhausted list and by far at all. So in respect of World Mental Health Day, I just want you to have a little think, and it's an opportunity today to really consider, what is it I want for myself? Like Dawn was mentioning earlier, we need to consider ourselves in all this. So what makes you happy? What are you passionate about? So think outside the box. So take an opportunity today to listen to our wonderful speakers that we've got lined up and really take advantage of the journeys that they've been on. So I'm going to pass you back now to Janet, and Janet's going to introduce our speakers. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Thanks to Stacey and Angie there. And I think what's important, I just want to take a little step, and we've called this professional development for the reflective practitioner. Well, I'm just going to reflect and say, wow, we've got representatives here from not just across the country, but across the UK. And I want to welcome our students and our colleagues from Northern Ireland. So a very warm welcome. And also to that diversity of different qualifications that you're all doing. I've been looking at the chat and there's so many relevant, of course, qualifications, CCLD, extended CCLD. We'll be looking at technical diplomas. You're also doing T-levels, some of you. So it's wonderful to have you all here today under that one umbrella of education and early years. Okay, so I'm very, 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 very pleased and delighted to be able to introduce you now to Laura Thornley. And Laura is our Learning Development Manager at, well, she's not mine, but she is the Learning Development, probably feels like it, a Learning Development Manager at My Choice Homes. Let's take a look at what that's all about. Over to you, Laura. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Good morning to everybody. Wow, first up, it's always very daunting. Doesn't matter how professional you think you are. So I kind of fell into the role of assessor and tutor and within residential care. I started in my journey in 2007 when my daughter started school, and being a summer baby, she could only go in for a few hours at a time. And actually, I didn't even realise I liked children, if I was very honest with you all. However, my journey started as a play worker. And over the years, I've developed my skill set. I've been to university to do my childhood studies degree, which I'm very excited to see that you're going to be spoken to about today. And over the course of time, develop those skills to become an assessor and a tutor as well. And 5 years ago, after being a transitional link support worker for vulnerable children who were going from primary education up to secondary education, I embarked upon my journey into residential childcare. Janet, I think you have some slides available. There we go. I don't know how many of you have ever considered a pathway in residential care, but from my journey, from early years through to play work through to primary and secondary schools, it was certainly something that was never promoted or that I'd ever considered working in. My idea of a children's home, I think, was very much like Annie, this orphanage with deprived children. And I was most pleasantly surprised to gain a better understanding that very vulnerable children, all the way from, well, we take children from around 7 years of age up until 18, were being cared for in beautiful, normal homes. And as you can see, this is a picture on the screen at the moment of one of our homes that has 4 young people in it. The course of residential or for residential childcare is to promote positive outcomes for children. And I'm sure that this is something that all of you who are interested in working across the sector would like to see. We have a total of 9 children's homes. And as you can see, like I've said, they're just normal, caring, loving homes. They don't stand out. And I'm sure that many of you are going to school or colleges with children and young people who have experienced being in the care system. We do the next slide, please, Janet. So I knew nothing about residential childcare when I started. I didn't know what a looked after child was. And a looked after child is a child who's been in the care of the local authority for more than 24 hours and is under the age of 18 years of age. So when children are placed within the care system, it can be for a multitude of different reasons. And it can be as simple as there may have been a bereavement in the family and mum might not be able to offer adequate care for that child. It could be more extreme that that child has been exposed to some form of trauma or abuse or neglect. But the role of an RSW is to try and support that child's journey to adulthood and independence in the most positive, loving and caring way. Can I have the next slide, Janet, please? The statistics around children who are looked after are quite shocking. I think in the UK at the moment, there's around 400,000 children who are considered looked after. And my heart, as I'm sure many of yours do, wants to go out to making sure that these children have access to healthy lives, that they are able to experience play, that they're able to learn to develop positive relationships with other people after having experienced inadequate care for one reason or another, or some form of harm or abuse. There are 82,170 children that are actually in residential care settings at this time, which is an increase on 2% on last year. These statistics are ever growing, and I am honoured to be part of every child's journey and their transition to having a better life. Sorry, Janet. So the role of an RSW is phenomenal. For me, I'm very excited about it. It's something that I feel very passionately about. When I started, I was blown away by the level of care that practitioners were giving to children and young people who are disadvantaged. Residential support workers support everyday lives of vulnerable children, and what makes them vulnerable, more vulnerable within society, is those experiences that they've had. Their role is to be positive role models, which I'm sure most of you are. I'm sure that most of you, if you have a friend in need, gives them that advice and shows empathy and curiosity to what's happened for them. And that is exactly what your role as an RSW would be. A support worker is there to act as that positive guide, a professional parent. They work alongside children and families and other professionals to support guidance. And that would mean that you would be a part of lots of plans to support children in different areas of their development, to make sure that they are provided with a safe and happy home. You'll also develop a child's risk awareness. And I'm sure that many of you are aware of the high increase in exploitation at the moment. And one of the roles of an RSW would be to understand what is meant by exploitation and how to try and keep children safe while educating them to keep themselves safe too. And being a support worker is about having the ability to professionally parent. And that's a really key phrase, the professional parent. You are, or you would be, that key role model for that child. We use very therapeutic approaches which come naturally, I suppose, within the early years sector, that nurture that you have for the smaller children. But that continues all the way up to 18 years of age, when that child hopefully will be ready to take the next steps to adulthood. The next slide, please, Janet. So the role of a key worker, I'm sure that everybody who is considering a career pathway working with children will have heard of a key worker. And that key worker is that positive link, somebody who is the main coordinator for that child or young person. They will be involved in all kinds of reviews, looking at the developmental areas of the child, making sure that they are meeting progressional and developmental plans. Making sure that all areas of development are being met, including their emotional well-being. And again, linking that back today to all the children on Mental Health Day. I'm sending lots of love out, because this is a very, very, very challenging, or can be a challenging role when you're working with children who have experienced such trauma that impacts on their mental health in such a key way. The role of the key worker as well is to support the homes managers and to make sure that children's records are up place and that you're evidencing their progress in the same way that I suppose you would do if you were a key worker for a child in early years. The role of the key worker is responsible for maintaining appropriate relationships, and that's not only with the child but with their families as well. A lot of the time, children in care or within the care system have got a lot of contact still with their families, and it's a key area that we want to promote. Children who are within the care system often have a lot of attachment disorders, which are caused from being away from those primary caregivers. So it's a really key role in making sure that you're supporting positive connections throughout for those children. Next slide, sorry. Thank you, Janet. So why enter residential care? I've seen so many incredible staff come through our doors. People who had never ever considered residential support as a career pathway, many of who didn't actually know. If you are vibrant and you are flexible and you have a level of emotional maturity and you are willing to look past behaviours, then this might be the ideal role for you. It is a very rewarding job. You get to see and to share a journey for a child as they grow up. And even if sometimes they don't actually thank you for it then, because you're setting boundaries and because you're making them go to school, they will most definitely thank you when they start getting older. Those small things that you do as a key worker, as a support worker, that hot chocolate before bed, or making sure that you're just listening to make sure that everything's going on is okay for them, you being curious. These are all the key things that will make that child feel valued as they enter into their adult lives. So what qualifications do you need to have? Well, as I said initially, I came from a background without any. I did my level 3 play work qualification. I worked within the early years settings. I opened an out of school club. I went on to become an assessor and a tutor. I went back to university as an adult and did my degree in childhood studies. All of these things I never even knew existed without exploring and without having opportunity. When you enter residential care, you will be asked to do your level 3 diploma or apprenticeship in residential care. However, you are also able to use a multitude of other qualifications to support your journey into care. You don't initially need any qualifications to start your journey at all. But if you have health and social care that you're already doing at college or that you're doing early years, these will all help your journey. We've recently set up a qualification as well called the Bridging Programme to bridge the gaps in knowledge. The requirements that we work to in residential are the Children's Homes Regulations 2015, and they stipulate that you must have a qualification at a level 3 in order to work with children in care. And this is often due to their vulnerabilities and the high levels of safeguarding that are needed. But the equivalent qualifications such as early years, youth work, play work, teaching and learning in schools, and health and social care can all act as a bridge to residential care sector. From your level 3, and just as an RSW, you can progress as well. I've currently got students with me who are doing their level 4 in youth work. I have staff members who are now becoming assessors. I have staff members who are becoming tutors and trainers. So there is a whole wealth of other qualifications that you can embark upon. And like for like, going into other sectors, if you wanted to evolve, your level 3 can be that springboard into university placements too. The next slide. So here I've got two, I'm running out of time, I'm very aware, but I've got two fantastic managers of our homes. The progressional pathway within residential, you have your RSW, your support worker, with progression to becoming a senior. From a senior, you can go on to being a deputy, on to being a manager, on to being part of the senior leadership team. And as you can see at the bottom there, an RI, a responsible individual, and they're in charge of the welfare of all children within the residential homes that they have. And these two lovely young men here all started at the bottom. They started at RSW, they've worked their way up. Luke, who is to the left in the picture, has dyslexia, very severe dyslexia. And when I first started working alongside him, he was a deputy manager. He was completing his level 3 that he found very difficult. And we looked to support that in a much more vocational way. Luke has now become a manager. He is currently doing his level 5 in leadership and management. And I just wanted to emphasize that all of these vocational pathways aren't a barrier to learning. They should be that springboard into it. You can achieve anything you put your mind to, and every opportunity should be grabbed in whichever pathway you choose to take. Residential care is exceptionally rewarding, and these two managers highlight how much love and care goes into working with very vulnerable children. Thank you, Janet. as was mentioned earlier as well by Dawn, you can also go on to doing so much more. From residential support work, we have had people go on to become family support, go on to do their social work degrees. Some have become therapists. Some have gone to do a lot more work in the youth offending teams, have become assessors and trainers. Within any of the sectors, your journeys can interlink. I'm a big believer that we take every opportunity, and even if we are unsure, be curious and find out what else is out there for us. The world, as I say, is your oyster, and you can make it whatever you wish to make it. Janet, sorry, I think, is there a final one? Yeah, I know that we're running out of time. I'm going to put these slides
You're
up.
absolutely fine.
I'm going to put these slides up for everybody if you want to share them. But I just wanted to really emphasise the difference between the role of a residential support worker and others is the fact that we really do look at those attachment disorders and what's going on underneath the surface for these children. Please don't ever be scared of asking about residential care work. It is the most rewarding, amazing career opportunity that I think you could ever embark upon. I've done them and I've thoroughly enjoyed all areas, but residential for me, love it. Thanks, Janet.
Oh, Laura, wow.
Sorry, there's so much to say, isn't there?
No, wonderful. It was a wonderful, wonderful, inspiring presentation, and you speak with passion and you speak from the heart, and the inspiration that you've already had is clear from the responses in the chat. So take a look at the chat when you do get a minute, because there's some wonderful things, and I've just written down a few things that really stuck in my mind there, and that's the professional parent. This is why we're training, isn't it? We are professionals. We want to be able to make that difference. We're working in the role that you have. We're thinking about attachment disorder. What about when things go wrong? What can we do through that professional role? Connections is one of my favorite words, and it's one that we use a lot within our team. And that key person, key worker role, and the significance of that, and the difference that you can make. Yeah, amazing. So
I'm very excited for Nikki and Emma next, because that was part of my journey, and I know how incredible the degrees can be for childhood studies and play work. So big passion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. And
Thank you.
that was a wonderful transition. Moving on, we're very lucky indeed to be welcoming now Nikki and Emma, who are from Leeds Beckett University and are going to talk to us about even more diverse areas of work and how perhaps they can be continued into higher education. Over to you, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Janet. Can you hear us okay? Just make sure actually our microphones are working all right.
I can hear you, Nikki.
Can hear you fine. Yeah, all good. Yeah, all good.
I look like a ghost as per usual as well, which is really weird. I'm not a ghost, I promise people.
Emma, do you want to start? I think on our first slide, Janet, which is the next one, I think we'll introduce ourselves as we come on individually, but I think Emma, shall I let you go first?
Yeah, okay,
thank you.
So hi everyone, I'm Emma Boob. I'm one of the lecturers on the playwork degree at Leeds Beckett, but my background is playwork in prisons. Do you want to go on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So a bit about my journey, how I got here. So I didn't take the traditional route, and Nikki will talk more about that in a minute. She did. My background's a bit kind of hiddlety-piddly. It took me a long time to work out where I actually wanted to go in life, and did all kinds of crazy things, from riding racehorses to being in legal departments, which is kind of where my love for law started, which led on to where I ended up. But I always knew that I didn't really want to work with adults. I always wanted to work with children. And so how I went around getting into that, I decided to go back to college and do an access course. And I actually thought I was going to go on to be a counsellor. So that's where those two images come at the bottom, the heads. I was doing that. But whilst I was doing that, I was volunteering for Mind and working with people with mental health, adults with mental health problems. in society, and I found that a lot of those people had experienced some part of the criminal justice system. But alongside doing that, I was also doing bereavement counselling for children, and again found that we were looking at after everything, at the end result, so after everything had happened. And that's kind of where my interest for play work in prisons started. I thought I was going to go on to do a play therapist, become a play therapist, but I didn't do that. I chose a different route. But my whole thing was the fact that in society we always focus on the end result rather than looking at what's going on in the here and now, which is really what, as most of you know, if you study play work, is what we really focus on there. So I was keen on supporting children going through some kind of aspect of the criminal justice system. I just didn't know what at this point. So fast forward studying and get to the end, and did placements on the course. We both lecture on the courses that the degree course we took placements in hospitals, in prisons, because I'm looking at you, Nikki, in prison. I took both my placements in prison and found that I really had a passion for play work in prisons and supporting children going through the separation with their parents through the criminal justice system. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So the reason is, there we go. I don't know why it did that, but it did. So often when we talk about play work in prisons, people don't really know what to expect. It's kind of a term that isn't really well recognised and not particularly well researched either. We have seen more increased play facilities over the last sort of 5 or 6 years since the Farmer Report came in place. But this is a play facility in a women's prison. As you can see, it looks pretty much like a standard kind of play setting, I suppose you want to say. However, some of the things on there I'm just looking at, a lot of things you take for granted within your normal settings, you're not allowed to use within the prison because you've got the security aspect of things as well. So you can see there's pens and pencils on there. We are allowed to use those, but we have to count them in and out because we need to keep a track of how many things are out within the play area, what could be used as weapons. Now we take pens. I don't really see pens as a risky thing, but however, if they get into the wrong hands, they can be sharpened and become a weapon. So we're all about providing play for children, but we've also got this this like security aspect to us. So we're not allowed things such as scissors. Trying to think what else. Red paint's not allowed because it can represent blood and can have a PTSD effect in both children and in prisoners. So there's lots of things that we're restricted on. You can see we've got dolls at the back there, but they're all soft body dolls, not hard body dolls, and the clothes have to stay on. They can't come off them. There's lots of different aspects of providing play. So we're there to provide play in a really restrictive setting and kind of hostile setting as well. You know, prisoners aren't allowed to get up and move around. They are on family days, which is another aspect of the role. But overall, we're providing play when children are visiting, which means that the security is quite high. So yeah, there's a lot of restrictions in place that to stop children playing as freely as you'd like to, and so that is an aspect of our role, is to provide some kind of play within this setting. People are interested in getting into this aspect of work. They take people on from a level 3 qualification within play work in prison to do the play work aspect of it. The other element of the role is family support as well, so you do a lot of family contact, providing both addressing children's best interests, but also the prisoners' right to having access to their children, to know what's going on. So that could be things like contacting schools and getting school reports so that they have something to actually communicate and just talk with the children with. It can also be going to child protection meetings and being an advocate for the child and for the parent. So there's a lot of that element of roles as well. So there's lots of different things that are involved in play work in prisons. I'm trying to think if I've covered everything. Nikki, have I missed anything? It feels like a whistle-stop tour, and it's a bit like...
No, and I guess we're going to talk about our play work course as we move on,
yeah.
And that some of our students that do come to us at university on the play work course will have the opportunity, if they choose to maybe do a placement within a prison setting, because that's not always an easy thing to access.
No.
Okay. No.
Next slide, please.
That goes on to me. Yeah. So a quick jumping across to myself. So hi, I'm Nikki. I am also a lecturer at Leeds Beckett University on the Childhood Development and Playwork course. But before I got anywhere near doing the job I'm doing now, I've had quite a varied background. So just a little bit about how I started. I actually did what was called the NNEB nursery nursing course many moons ago, which is very similar to what you guys are doing now. And I started that at college. And then I didn't really want to go down the traditional route of jumping straight into a nursery. I kind of went to a bit of travelling. So I worked at Pontins for a little while, not as a red coat or anything, but working in reception, doing a bit of nannying as well on the side. I then jumped across to Guernsey in the Channel Islands, where I worked in a nursery school. And that's when I realised I didn't want to do nursery school that time. I wanted to keep travelling. So I then got my job working in America, working for Disney Cruise Lines, working with children sort of age 3 to 4 for one contract, and then sort of the older 10 to 12s for a second contract. But it was quite nice being in the Bahamas every Friday for the whole of the year. So that was really good. And just another way of working with children, I suppose, with my qualification that I'd got from my NNEB course. Leaving America, I then moved on to be a nanny. Obviously, it wasn't Mary Poppins, even though the picture portrays me as Mary Poppins. Moved out to Switzerland to nanny for 2 young children out there while their dad lived back in the Channel Islands. And then while I was there, I kind of realised again, still thinking, what is it I want to do with my qualification? I then stumbled across the role of a health play specialist working in a hospital. So that's my next slide, please, Janet. I'd never really heard of the role before. It wasn't around much then. It was in the early 2000s. There wasn't many practitioners in hospitals playing with children. So it wasn't kind of seen, I guess, as being particularly important at that point. So I started my role in the picture there in the yellow T-shirt. That's myself many years ago, doing some distraction with a child. So what the role of the health play specialist in hospital is to provide a couple of different aspects. So to start with, we're trying to provide some normality in a really, really scary environment for children. All children have a right to play, and that right includes being in hospital. They can still play while being in hospital. It doesn't mean because you're unwell, you cannot play. And we use play for lots of different sort of methods of children understanding what's going on. So the picture of myself here is a little boy who was due to have an MRI scan. And this is going back to the early 2000s. We used this model scanner that we had made by a family, made it for us, and he had G.I. Joe there on the bed, which actually moved in and out. So it gave us the opportunity through play to explain to this young boy what was going to happen when he went for the scan. Quite often children are put to sleep because it's easier, but we sort of said, look, through play, we can get them through this scan, because for anyone that's had an MRI scan, you have to keep still for about 40 minutes. And so for a young child, that's quite difficult. If they don't understand what's going on, it can be very noisy. So lots and lots of kind of encouragement and sort of preparation through play will help him understand what's going to happen, that nothing's going to hurt, and he just needs to keep still. He can put some music on and we'll be there with him and everything throughout the procedure. This little girl on the right-hand side there is having an echo. An ultrasound, sorry. So through role play again, so she understands when that cold jelly goes on her tummy. This is why we're doing it, and this is what it's for. They could be prepared for having cannulas, which have needles in their hands or in their arms. So all these sort of activities we do to help them understand what's actually going on during their journey in hospital. But also providing some normality, like I said, which is actually that we can still play in hospital. Most hospitals now have a playroom, which are manned by qualified play leaders and play specialists and play workers, sort of providing daily activities for children. Again, in that scary environment that we talked about. Play is becoming more recognised in hospitals now compared to when I first started. I worked at Leeds General Infirmary for 15 years doing this role, which I absolutely loved, and progressed my final bit of my career working with teenagers and looking at how important it is for teenagers still to be able to have the opportunity to play while in hospital, which is kind of now starting to shape my career. Kind of I want to look at the kind of how teenagers really do still need to have that opportunity to access support and play while they're spending time in hospital. It's an amazing role, and again, like we're saying on Emma's with the prison side of things, coming onto our course and doing the playwork course I'll talk about in a moment, kind of will give you access to be able to do a placement in a hospital. It isn't that easy just to get a placement in a hospital because of restrictions. COVID hasn't helped, but our students do get the chance to go on placement and experience what it's like to work in a hospital, because it's not as easy as you might think. It might look fun in these pictures, but it's also some really harrowing times as well. But what you do for those children makes a massive, massive difference. If you go on to my next slide, I keep alluding to talking about our course, so I'll talk about it just a little bit more. So again, Leeds Beckett University, based in City Campus in the centre of Leeds. We are the only course across the country now that delivers the Playwork degree course. And we tend to get a lot of students that come to us with a childcare and a health and social care background. And to come onto a course, you need about 104 UCAS points to join us on the course. We are full-time. It runs over 3 years. And quite often students come to us knowing they want to work with children, they just don't know what capacity. So it could be prisons, it could be hospitals, it could be adventure playgrounds, early years settings, working with children with special educational needs. We get a real mixed bag of students coming to see us on our course. You get the opportunity to go out on placement while you're with us as well. So you come into us at level 4, that's your starting year. Level 5 and level 6, they're your 3 years. So both the first and second year, you go out on placement and you'll do 360 hours on placement. And it's of your choice. Like I say, you can decide 1 year you might want to try the hospitals, another year you might want to try the prisons. And it gives you the opportunity to check out these career paths. We look to study the sociology and psychology throughout the course. So the sociology kind of looking at the study of childhood, kind of looking at where children fit in society today. And from the psychology aspect, that's looking at your child development things. But everything we do is through the lens of play and how we look at how play is fundamental needs of all children. Just like children need to eat, need to sleep, and need to breathe, children need the opportunity to play, which kind of wraps up what me and Emma are both saying here in our settings. Quite often, if you talk about children playing in prisons, people kind of don't understand why that happens and instantly think, oh, it must be a child that's in prison themselves. And it's not. They're actually visiting somebody, and that's really important. They still have access to play. Just as with a hospital, just because they are in hospital doesn't mean their right to play is taken away. It's the way that they are going to understand and process their journey through hospital. Have I got time, Janet, to show a very short video on my next slide? It's only about 3 minutes long. Have I got time? Or is it best that I send you the link?
No, let's go for it. Yes, please.
Okay.
Nikki, can I just say before you start, sorry, you said that we can do placements in hospitals and prisons, but also there's loads of other places you can do placements as well. It's not just hospitals and prisons. It's just in case people are thinking that's the only prison placements we offer, because that's all we talk about.
No, like I said, I think I've said there's adventure playgrounds, early year settings, SEN settings, and there's a real mixed bag. And there's some people talk about it on this little slide as well coming up.
Children are often not valued as for who they are, so what I do is about listening to them and understanding them, which is like the essence of play work, seeing each child as an individual and an equal and giving them a voice in society, and that's something that we try to deliver. I wanted to work with children in some form, but I didn't want to go into the kind of traditional things like teaching or nursing or nursery nurse, things like that. I like that the course had such variety. You could study the subject without committing to a certain job. You have the opportunities to explore different subjects, kind of all in the range of play and play work.
Great course because you learn stuff what I don't think you'll tend to find on another course. Not just children learning inside, but the amount of knowledge that you get given about how children learn through play, through outdoors, is just invaluable.
For me, placements are really important that the course offers. I went to prisons for both mine, which has actually shaped my whole career and what I'm specialising in. They offer you the chance to learn hands-on what it's like to deliver play work within unique settings.
In my first year I worked for a Play Ranger scheme, which were a mobile play service in a deprived area. In my second year I went to Ghana, which were a brilliant experience working with children and families there.
I have a strong interest in therapeutic play and how play can be used in hospital to help children who are struggling or who've gone through traumatic events. In my second year placement I had the opportunity to go into the Children's Hospital. This was a great opportunity that you may not get on other courses, as it was kind of down to the link that our tutors and the university had with the hospital.
I never thought going to university I'd do a 14-week placement in a nursery whilst in a zoo as well in America. It was just something I think everyone should have the chance to do.
The tutors at Leeds Beckett are very committed to the course and the subject. They really want you to be engaged in what you're doing and they want you to enjoy it. They're very committed and they're always there whenever you need them 24/7. Leeds is a fantastic student city.
I originally came to Leeds primarily because of this course, but after spending 2 years here, there's just so much for students. The city's very vibrant, there's always something going on no matter what you're into.
The course is brilliant for the sense that it gives you a wide range of career options at the end of it. Some people go down the play therapist route, others go down the play hospital specialists, teaching, as well as what I'm doing, which is research.
If you want to do the Playwork course and you really enjoy working with children and young people and you want to provide wonderful, fantastic opportunities out there for them, do the Playwork course.
If anyone wants to talk further about our course or actually our career path, I suppose, you're very welcome to get in touch with us and drop us an email.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much, and so inspiring. And again, what take an opportunity to look at what our students are saying in the chat, because wonderful things that we don't necessarily think about, and looking at things, I'm going to just describe them as a classification of perhaps less mainstream when we think about those occupational roles. And I think what's really important when we think about that reflection, what we're talking about today, and thinking about the different career journeys, is the fact that actually, I think, Angie, you put in the chat the twists and the turns and the way that our journeys have sort of evolved. So knowing what you want to do is often very difficult, and the most difficult thing. But if you want to make a difference, then there are so many ways that you can begin that journey. And I just wrote down there the significance of play. And we underestimate what that means to children, and really it is the essence of childhood, isn't it? And we just need to keep reminding ourselves of the sheer joy and the sheer pleasure that childhood brings into when we can actually allow play to be threaded through it. So thank you so much for that, and can't wait now to see that video. I want so that would be
a quick one.
Good.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having us. Sorry that was a whistle-stop tour, but thank you for having us.
Oh no, brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We are going to move on now, and we're going to talk to Kelly. And if we can see the PowerPoint again, we'll welcome Kelly. Welcome, Kelly. And Kelly is a nursery manager, and she can do her own little introduction there, but may also have an apprentice with her. I know ratios are difficult, so we'll see how we get on there. But Kelly, over to you.
Oh, thank you so much. I think Amy has joined us. Amy, if you have, pop your camera on, my lovely, so that we can see you. There she is. Hi. So I'm going to share, hopefully, my screen with you. I hope that's what you can see. I hope, everyone.
Yes, we can see those. Thank you.
Marvellous. Excellent. Thank you. I was asked to kind of join this, and thank you so much for including myself and Amy in this, but we were asked to kind of share not only my journey, but then Amy's journey as a result of my journey, which I think is a great thing to be able to share. And we've had some brilliant points shared it already. It's marvellous to be part of this. So I wanted to kind of share with you my journey and where I've come from. If I can see that first photograph there, which is me and my best friend Kate on in college back in the day when we did our BTEC national diploma in early years. And you can see us on the other side there at our 40th birthday party. So we met on our very first day in college going into early years. And I always wanted to work in early years. I'd never thought of a different career. That was always what I wanted to do. And so to meet someone on that very first day of college and to now still be friends many years on, over 20 years on, is an absolute pleasure. And I suppose the reason I mention this is because with all you students that are on different courses and meeting different people, these are lifelong friendships that you could potentially be developing. The picture in the middle there is me with a very young boy, and that young boy as a man with his own child. That little boy sitting on my lap is a little boy called Shane, who has given me his permission to share his story. When I was a student, one of the placements that I did was a nannying placement, and I met Shane. His mum was in a very difficult position financially. He was the youngest of 4 children. They were a family in need, and I was supposed to do a 2-week placement with them. And as you can see from that picture of Shane with his own baby, I'm still very much part of that family's life now. The 2 weeks that I was supposed to spend with them turned into a whole lifetime of supporting that family and being part of their journey. And again, I think that's something I want to really reiterate, is that the children that you come into contact with, whether that be for 2 weeks, 2 years, or 20 years, you will make a difference. You absolutely will make a difference to their lives. And when I asked Shane if it was okay for me to share his picture and a little bit of the story, he actually said, Kelly, if you weren't part of my journey, I don't know if I would be here now. And that to me gives me goosebumps every day, because that was just a 2-week placement. But actually it's turned into a huge friendship and also a real impact, where he's got his own family. As you can see, little Maya there. And it's just so important to remember that we make this huge difference every single day when we're working with children and families. I then went on to have my own. That's my first daughter there. She's now 24, and I've got a grandson as well. And I went on to have my own children. I went into childminding for a little while after working my way through up to nursery manager, had my own children, and then went into childminding for a while, and won a couple of awards for business, and things were great. Everything was kind of going in the right direction, but childminding wasn't my bag. And what you will find when you go through your childcare career is that you will find things that really inspire you and things that just don't fit for you, and that's okay. Childminding wasn't for me. It's a brilliant career for lots of people, but I found it too lonely. I'm too much of a people person. I like to be around adults much more than childminding was allowing me to be. But it gave me an opportunity to be with my children for a short period of time, for a couple of years. It allowed me to be a stay-at-home mum, but still earn a living to pay the bills. And then when my children went off to school, I decided that actually I needed a little bit more. I needed to do something a bit different. So at 40, I went off to uni, and I was definitely the oldest student in town. And the reason that I'm telling you this is because it is never too late to learn something new and to change the trajectory of your career. I knew that I wanted to remain in early years. Early years is my passion. I want to continue to make a difference to the children and the families that I work with. But I also knew I needed to stimulate my brain a little bit more. I needed something extra. So I went to uni and I did a degree in business and HR management as an extra thing to add to my the opportunities I was giving myself. I wanted to open doors for myself. And that picture there was taken as I was handing in my dissertation, and I actually graduated on my 40th birthday. So don't ever think that you get to a point where you should stop learning or stop developing yourself or stop increasing your knowledge, because actually you should never stop. We should always continue learning. You're never told to go and get that degree. It doesn't have to be when you're 18 or 20 or 25. So where am I now then? Well, after that degree, I went to work for a large training provider. I got my assessor and verified qualifications prior to that, and went to work for a large training provider. And then COVID hit, and I decided that actually what I would like to do was open a setting for myself. It was a little bit of a labour of love, if I'm honest, and an opportunity became available. And the first picture there was the room, the space that I took on a lease, and the team there in the middle. There's lots of them missing. That's an old photo now. The team very much has grown. And the end picture there is a picture of the setting that we started. And it was very much a labour of love. There was never a huge budget. I wasn't, part of a big chain that had a lot of money to spend. But what I did have was passion and a desire to open a setting that enabled children in our community to have a place where they felt loved and safe, and they could play and they could learn, and that it was very much a supportive and beautiful setting for children to be in. And I absolutely feel that that's what we've managed to create. I also 4 years ago opened the Early Years Company, which is a training company to support managers in their settings. And now, as part of my career development, I train group settings. I write for Nurserywood magazine and Nursery Manager Today magazine, and I go off and do lots of conferences and talks and discussions across the sector. And I suppose the whole point of me telling you all of this is that at no point have I lost the passion for making a difference to children. When we think about the training that we deliver, the nursery, the coaching, the support, all of that makes a difference to the practitioners and the managers that I work with, which in turn makes a difference to their practice, which in turn makes a difference to the children. And no matter what you do in your career, no matter where your career takes you in early years, as long as that remains your focus, those children, those end users, those families, then you will always be doing the right thing as far as I'm concerned. So I'd like to, I'm just going to stop my, before I stop that, invest in yourself. Absolutely, it pays the best interest. If you are training now, which many of you here are, continue that training, continue to invest in yourself, continue to read, to learn, to listen to podcasts, to have professional discussions, because you will always improve and always learn something. So please don't ever stop learning. That would be my best thing to say to you today. So I'm going to just stop sharing, and hopefully, yes, Amy, you're still there, so that's great. So this is Amy. Amy is one of our apprentices in Clodsall Community Nursery at our nursery, and Amy is just going to share her story. As a result of me sharing mine and opening the nursery, Amy now has a journey that she's going on. So over to you, Amy.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, so a bit of background about myself. I was raised with my mom as a childminder, so I was somebody that was always around children and just naturally had that like instinct with children myself. So from the age of 19, I was doing voluntary work in schools, and then eventually got offered a TA position, and that was out when I was living in Germany. I grew up in Germany, and that's kind of where my journey started within the childcare sort of system. I've taught English and German in both England and Germany. I did that for about 5 years, and then I moved back to the UK 8 years ago, and I was working as a nanny, which seems to be a popular thing from what I've heard. So I worked as a nanny, Ofsted registered nanny for a family of 5 children. And yeah, I did that. And then leading up to, would have been 2019, I fell pregnant myself with my son, and we went into lockdown. So obviously being in lockdown for 19 months, I had like a lot of time to kind of reevaluate things and, you know, decide on what I actually wanted. And I knew long term I actually wanted to work in a nursery. I'd always wanted that, but I didn't have the qualifications. I'd done Open Uni, I have a degree in English and German, but I just needed those childcare qualifications. So I stuck at the nanny work after 19 months of no work due to lockdown. But I just kind of felt like I needed more. I needed more stability, and the nanny work wasn't giving me that. So I applied for the bank staff position at the nursery here. And I started that, and literally within 2 months then was propositioned with doing my level 3, and obviously snapped it up. So yeah, I've been doing that now since March the 2nd. And yeah, it's been quite the journey. Admittedly, at the start it was quite an adjustment. Obviously with my son, he had me to himself for 19 months. So it's adjustment for both of us going back to work full time. But it's kind of been quite refreshing, and then the time I do have him is a lot more rewarding. But I'm like Kelly, I'm someone that I just love to learn. You know, I'm 32 myself, so I'm an older apprentice as such. But I find it really refreshing, constantly learning on the job, learning from my colleagues, and, you know, just picking up things from each other. I've got an amazing management, you know, team and everything, and lots of support on hand. Where was I going with this? Yeah, just the overall thing of, like, obviously as adjusting to being a mom, working and studying. It was quite a challenge at the start, admittedly, but I've kind of found my balance now. And so, you know, my manager knows that I don't work on a Friday. That's my time with my son. with respect to no childcare on that day. So then I kind of keep my Sundays free, and that's the day I commit to all my coursework and everything. And it seems to have balanced itself out. And if there's a week where I'm feeling a bit more overwhelmed, I can always put in a request for a half day, and management have been amazing and, you know, always on board with that. But yeah, it's just refreshing at my age, still learning new things. And I'm very passionate in, like SEN. I always have loved working with SEN children. I have a lot of experience with that. And like long term, I always say that I'd love to do SENCO sort of work. And we're a very SEN heavy nursery, so it's obviously great practice for me. But yeah, that's kind of like where I am at, and it's just it's a fun journey to be on. I love learning, and it's been quite refreshing with the challenge of trying to juggle it all, but it's working and I'm enjoying it, which is the main thing. So, and Kelly's my absolute darling. So
thank you for that, Amy. And I think one of the things at the nursery that we definitely promote is that lifelong learning, and if it gets too much, then you come and tell us, you can talk to us, and we make that work, because we know how important it is. In early years, it's a stressful job as it is, without then having a family and having to do all of the extras. So to the students that are listening, I would very much say, if you are in that position where you're finding anything overwhelming with work, with, you know, all of the other responsibilities that go with life, be really open and speak to whoever your support is, because there's always opportunities to make tweaks and changes to help you to get through whatever those challenges are at any point. Because it's too easy to keep them inside, and then it sort of grows and expands, and before you know it, you feel completely overwhelmed. So yes, reach out, and especially this week, Wellbeing Week, do reach out and speak to people if you're finding things a little bit difficult. But that's our journey, and I hope it's been helpful to show you that you know, don't ever stop learning, and you can always develop those careers in lots of different ways.
Oh, Kelly and Amy, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. And again, inspiring messages in the chat there. And what somebody put in the chat was about the honest reflections on what it's like. And I wrote down some words, you know, we're all today trying to make that positive difference, each and every one of us. And you're doing that every single day. All of our guest speakers today making that positive difference every single day. And those inspirational journeys, everything you do and everything you model is making that positive difference. And keywords I wrote down really, because I can't resist it, the passion, and that just shines. It shines from both of you, the passion and that labour of love. Why we do it, why we want to make that positive difference, and the importance of perhaps reflecting sometimes, as you say, the importance of well-being. And Dawn started that sort of thread of reflecting on our own self-care, and that's so important. And actually, we are a community who likes to do that, so we're the best people to support each other. So that's a really good message, I think, for us all to take. Everybody from time to time, I know I certainly do, we'll have that feeling of being overwhelmed. And I think knowing that we've got that support network out there is so important. Thank you so much.
I have the slides available if I can share them. But if not, I'll just start anyway. So yes, I'm Amy. I have had a very different kind of approach to the career in early years. I'm a qualified early years teacher, but I work for Alpha International Training because I decided that actually training the adults and training the people that then eventually work with the children was my passion more than anything. So just a bit about Alpha Training. Firstly, we do teacher assistant training courses with NCFE. They're brilliant courses, and early years courses as well, all the way from level 2 up to level 5 for both pathways. So it's really inspiring to see people that I've had many people go from a level 2 with us all the way up to level 5 and being the managers that they wanted to be. With that, most of our courses are online. And I have around 110 students that I'm supporting at the minute from all the way around the world as well. And it's really inspiring listening to all these people today, because they've come from loads of different backgrounds and do all different fields of work, but actually adding the international element to this training and this day to day. There's so many people around the world that are doing the NCFE courses because they know they provide such brilliant knowledge and practice and practical kind of abilities to their everyday work. So recently, in the last year, I've gone to Luxembourg to do some training with people there. I did it, to be honest, I didn't even know that country existed. I put my hand up. Luxembourg, went to Brussels as well, Alicante, which was lovely in the sun, I must admit, and Valencia. So really range of places, and we also do have a lot of students in Bahrain. And it really did puzzle me when I started off working with Alpha, because I didn't realise how sought after our training is around the world and how almost we're looked at as gurus. So for you guys today joining this call, it's the courses that you're doing are so beneficial. It doesn't mean you might want to work somewhere else in the world, but you can, and it is really, really inspiring. So that's just a little bit about Alpha. In terms of me, I started off doing a GCSE in health and social care at secondary school, because, to be honest, I really did not know what I wanted to do. To be honest, my mum's not listening, but she definitely did inspire me to do health and social care, because she is a speech and language therapist at a hospital nearby. So I kind of fell into that just because of my environment at home. So I did that, and I did really enjoy it, and I decided to complete some work experience at a local preschool, which was then, to be honest, where my early years bug kind of got caught onto me. And the experiences there were amazing. I went from a volunteer to being paid to do to work there, to being promoted to deputy manager, which was amazing, and then eventually manager. So that I've kind of gone through every single stage of the career path in that one setting, which was really, really good. And at that time, I took particular kind of importance on training apprentices. So we had like an apprenticeship scheme going on that I designed that would make sure that people joining us would be able to follow the same career path as I did if they wanted to. So that was in one setting, and then I decided, as all these people here today have kind of said, you're continuously wanting to learn and train. So I wanted to then move on to doing my early years teacher status, which I completed. And again, I love so much that they actually invited me back onto the course ever since I did that in 2020 to be a mentor on the course. So that would be where I would go to different settings all the way around Essex, and I would mentor the trainee early years teachers, just like I had a mentor when I was doing the training. So that's been really rewarding as well. And then within my career, I was then given the opportunity to move to doing different manager jobs in different nurseries with lots of different backgrounds to the nursery, so in a more deprived area or with a high number of SEND children as well. So kept gathering experiences, and then I was eventually able to progress to being an area manager, which was absolutely amazing. I was in charge of kind of overlooking 3 different settings. Again, that were all different, had all different team members, different children. It was really rewarding time. And I think that is when I decided, no, I want to focus on training the teachers and training the early years practitioners as well, because that's what I love to do. So I area manager. It was amazing, but I took the leap, and it was really scary, to be honest, because I was going from having all the qualifications I could possibly think of as an early years practitioner to being an assessor, which I didn't have the qualifications for in terms of the level 3 assessor qualification. And it was a completely different just a jump that I was really scared to do. And because when I was starting off in the career years and years ago, I was so scared of even reading a story in front of a group of children with a couple of adults there. I was absolutely petrified. And then moving on to now and assessing and going to these different countries and training people and leading conferences and being invited to talk on here is completely two different worlds. So making that leap and doing that has been amazing for me, and very scary, but very rewarding at the same time. So that's a little bit about me and what the journey I've gone on. And I also wanted to talk about a little bit about the importance of what you are actually doing, because as shadowing people that are training and learning on the job, you're going to make such a difference to whoever you decide to work with. Having really brilliantly well-trained professionals is such a value to anywhere you work. So even if it's in a prison, like we've talked about, in hospital, in earlier settings, in playgroups, or whatever setting you go into, being that well-trained professional is so important. And having the skills and knowledge of child development, for example, going through all the theories and learning about all them. At the time when you're doing your qualification, you might think, actually, why am I learning about this? What is it going to kind of provide me in the real world? But it is so valuable, because you never know, you might be presented with a child, for example, that has some sort of attachment concerns, and you know all about attachment theory, and you can then go off and support that child effectively. So everything you're doing at the minute will really make a difference to every child you work with. And eventually that will basically mean for them children, they've got better outcomes, and they're going to be better equipped for the future as well. So I just wanted to finish off my part in saying it's so important that you continue doing training. I thought I'd finished when I changed to doing an assessor qualification, and that was it. However, I've just started my PGCE, so I didn't think I'd be doing that, but that is what I'm doing now. So it's really important that you continue learning and following whatever path you go on as well. So yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Amy, thank you so much. And again, that inspiring, motivational presentation. Wonderful to hear about your journey and the confidence levels that have grown with you, because you're absolutely right. We forget, don't we, what we might have been like at 16, 17, 18. Yeah. We absolutely forget, and we mustn't take that for granted. And we're learning all the time, and we have to learn from each other and be generous with that, don't we, as well, which I think in this community we definitely are. I love the international perspective. That's fantastic. And again, we've heard from many people who've actually been overseas to develop their training and develop their career, and then come back and invest in maybe a specialist area. So it's wonderful to see that, and how that can broaden horizons. Now, not everybody has the opportunity to be able to do that, but we've heard so many different sort of career stories and journeys today that I think speak to each and every one of us in terms of never ever lose sight of where you want to go and what you want to do, because everything you do will touch somebody, and most of all will help to shape your journey and where you want to go. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, Amy. What we're going to do now is talk to Louisa. So Louisa, while we sort of get your slides onto the screen and so on, come and say hello to us, Louisa. Come and introduce yourself. Pop your camera on and join us. I wonder if Louisa's having some technical issues. Oh,
just
mic and camera. Thank you, Harriet.
Should be all right now.
Hey, Louisa, we've got you. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us, Louisa. I think still on mute, so I don't know if that's something you can control, Louisa,
Can you
or we
hear me
need to
all
do.
right now?
Perfect. I'm not very
Yeah.
patient.
Okay,
I'm
sorry,
not very patient, am I?
my hair's all over the
You look wonderful.
So
You look...
I'm on the sick bed here in the first aid area. Sorry if we get a lot of traffic.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I enjoy listening to Amy. That's really good about how her career really has taken off, and it's amazing the opportunities you end up, finding along your journey. Really, similar to mine. Just to let you know, I'm originally from Romania. I've been here in the northeast of England for 13 years now. I survived it, and naturalized a couple of years ago, so I'm a British citizen as well. And my desire to become British citizen was to vote, to have the right to vote. So I thought, I'm going to do it. Why not? So that was a personal sort of aim of mine. But in terms of my career, yes, it's interesting. I used to actually, my background is languages, and I used to do a lot of tuition, one-to-one, different ages, different abilities back in Romania. Then I lived in South Korea for a while and taught ESOL. And when I joined my husband, my now husband here in the UK, I didn't have the qualifications to work as a teacher, so I had to start as a TA, which I think it's even better than going straight into teaching, because you see all the perspectives. You're at the back of the classroom, and then you see what it's like to be, not at the front but at the back, and you work with the teacher alongside. And then when I started, it was mainly SEN, because they required a lot of support for SEN students. So I stayed within the SEN sector, and I would say that's where my strength lies. And I moved up in the same local authority school and applied for an HLTA position, so high-level teaching assistant. And from then on, my career took on more of a teaching role, because there's a high expectation, obviously, to teach and prepare and deliver. Not so much 100% teaching role, but there's a higher proportion of your role becoming more of a teacher's role. So then I thought, well, why not apply while I'm, earning my experience in the setting? Why not apply to do a part-time PGC? So as a lot of you will be aware, there's a lot of different PGCs out there. So I did mine in the evening because I had to work full time. So as a result of it, I was doing an HLTA, support staff, and teacher trainee, and doing everything else around it. So, I appreciated both sides of the roles. And I always say to the staff I work with, I'm very appreciative of the help I get. Even now, someone else is covering for me, because it's invaluable. Without them, I don't forget where I've come from. And I always say, if you forget your origins and your roots, there's a problem out there. So as a teacher, we work closely with our TAs, or we also know them as progress coaches and support assistants, because they enable us to do our job smoothly. So part of my qualifications as such, obviously I'm currently qualified level 3 assessors. I did my assessors. I'm looking to do, when I get a minute, to do level 4 IQA, which is internal quality assurance assessors. So that means I'm not only marking my own work, but sampling other people's work and feedback on that internally, and starting a master's as well in applied linguistics, which is mainly to complement my degree and to help me in my phonics lead and teaching the English language as such. Now, in the settings where I am, it's an SEN independent provision. We don't teach T-levels. It's unfortunate, but it's mainly, I think, due to funding as well. And we're focusing more on the level 2 qualifications. But it's something we're looking at, introducing GCSEs, A-levels as well. So that might be something for me to, put forward in the future and learn more about it and become a bit more proficient in what it takes to do the T-levels. But how my journey with the NCFE came about was I was doing a lot of courses myself, mental health, SEN, learning difficulties related. And then Janet contacted me, she can tell you that, and said, right, would you like to support us on the board for validation for early years and childhood studies? Because that was a level 4 course I did when I first arrived in this country in early years. And it's fantastic because, like Amy said, you learn not just the theories behind it, but you learn how do you start from the early stages of educating and supporting children, young children, up to the age of, I mean, I teach year 13 as well. So you see those stepping stones a lot clearer, and you understand what you're doing and how the theories actually apply in your practice. So for myself, really, it's been an ongoing learning journey. I try and celebrate what I learn, and when I do it, I try and share it with other people. And it's not just about acquiring qualifications, it's about applying those qualifications and the knowledge you gain in your practice and sharing best practice. And I always say sharing practice doesn't matter whether you're a teacher or the support staff, it doesn't matter. We all share the practice together. Because those of you wanting to go into teaching, you probably know the teaching can be quite an isolating job, even though you work with people all the time. You're always very focused in your own little world to get through things. But it's always important to sit down and just discuss, absolutely sit there and discuss about what goes wrong, what goes right, and take on board feedback and work with that feedback rather than see it as someone criticizing your practice. So collaboration is important, absolutely. So, currently, yes, I'm very busy. I'm a phonics lead, English lead. Because of the type of PGC I didn't come with QTLS, so I'm preparing for that one as well. There's a lot to prepare for, but it's trying to put all the pieces of the puzzles together so that it supports me in my career and my progression as well. But what I would say to the people who are looking to take up T-levels in early years, absolutely go for it. And I think the element where you get the support in setting, you actually go and experience what it's like to work in there, it's something you would not do without. If I would say that's the time when you know your strengths and your confidence grows, whether the age range you're working with is right for you, whether the subject is something you might want to specialize, whether you wish to do interventions as such, but you can only gain that insight if you're in there doing the job. Reading books and reading theories and creating assignments, it's all good, but it has to be informed by practice. So the T-levels together, absolutely, they work perfectly well. We would welcome very much apprentices in our setting as well. It's something that we're very small, but where I used to work, we used to have annually apprentices come in and changing levels as well. I do recommend changing the levels and changing key stages so that you can get a wide variety of experience rather than focus on one element, at least at the beginning of your career. And that's something I would recommend. Other than that, yes, I wish everybody, very good luck. I mean, I get the opportunity to see a lot of the paperwork that comes through for validation, and it's really robust. So I do trust the course. It's really good. Thank you very much.
Oh, Louisa, thank you so much. And for those lovely, kind words and inspiring words about the journey that you've had. And, the resilience that you've shown in terms of relocating and having to, not begin again, but actually make a connection part way through a journey to make sure
that integrate within a different society altogether. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that is absolutely inspiring for everybody on this call today, that actually just keep going.
Yeah.
And to hear that you're now going to go on and you're going to do a master's degree. I mean, yeah, you blow me away. You blow me away. I don't know how you do it all.
I don't know.
But why? I think we understand why, and that passion and that commitment to be able to make that difference. Thank you for sharing your story with us, Louisa, and for taking the time to come onto the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. We're going to hear now from Star, and I'm just going to check that we have Star with us.
Hello, Janet. I'm here.
Hey, fantastic. Thank you,
Hello.
Star. Come on board. I don't know if we've got slides or whether you've got slides.
Both.
I can't remember, Star. Well, seems to have though. We've got them. We've got them for you. There we go. So without further ado, I'm just going to hand over the baton to you, Star, if you want to start with a little quick introduction and then tell us about your wonderful, inspiring journey. Thank you.
Yes, that's fine. Is it okay if I can share my own slides, Janet?
We can do that. So we can stop sharing and you can share yours. And do we have Monique with us as well? I know you were going to bring a student along. Fantastic. Well, welcome, Monique. Hey, welcome, Monique. Nice
One's
to see
currently
you.
at work, so okay.
Over
Can
to
you see those
ladies.
slides?
Yes, we can. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
fabulous. Hello, everybody. Sorry for the quick changeover with the slides. My name's Star Wilkes, and this is Monique Watkeys. Monique is one of my students. I'm a lecturer at the University of Wolverhampton. And Monique?
I'm an assistant Senko at a school in Birmingham.
Yeah, Monique's currently one of my level 6 students, but she used to be level 5. And this summer we worked on Camp America together. But this talk's going to be surrounding comfort zones, surrounding how are we aligning what we're doing outside of your studies to them, essentially, and how that could help. So it's going to encompass a lot of different career paths. It doesn't really matter what sort of area you think you might be going into. I believe that this could be something that would support that journey. So have a think about how are you currently aligning what you do within your studies to outside work. So whether that is work that you're doing outside of that, or if it's volunteering or within the summers, and that's something that we're going to probably speak specifically on today. We travelled to Iowa in the summer and worked on a special educational needs summer camp. It encompassed all age ranges. So we worked with children, young people, adults with varying different special needs, disabilities. Monique, as one of my students, was able to get that paid for through the touring fund at the university, which is something that a lot of universities pay for. So she got this experience alongside her degree to help her with her professional personal development. Myself, I did this when I was 18 years old, so a good few years back now, before I started my career going into higher education. And it was something that I finished my A levels and I just wanted to have a bit of a break. I worked just a small job on the side and put absolutely everything away to save to go away for the summer. And I thought I'll do this and then I'll see where I stand, because I'm not too sure which direction I want to go into. And it turned out that once you press the willing to work on an SEND camp button on Camp America, you automatically get sent to one, which I didn't know, but I was happy about. So I got sent straight to Easter Seals, Iowa Camp Sunnyside, which is now a connection that I've kept for nearly a decade. And this summer we went with 6 of my students. They're also studying special educational needs, disability and inclusion studies. So it coincided with what they actually want to do. But I think it's much more than that, and we'll speak on that in a minute. But in terms of getting that experience for practice, it can really support you. I'm just going to show a couple of pictures now of when we were away. I'm not going to embarrass you, Monique. I haven't put any silly ones on. But there's a few pictures there of the people that we worked with. So we would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and then we'd go to bed at 11 p.m. at night. That's how long these days were. Really strict routine throughout the day. And we got to work with lots of really, really interesting characters over the course of the summer, made some incredible friends as well over the course of the summer. And it's really just a completely different atmosphere that you put yourself into. And that's why I call it comfort zones, because I think sometimes making sure that we step out of that comfort zone is important. It's not only important for ourselves and our personal development, but it's also important to make our CVs stand out in the crowd. So thinking about, well, actually, I've done this course now, whatever course that is, or I'm going to university, planning on that. That's all well and good, but what are we going to do that extra mile to set your CV aside from the others? And that's not something that you sort of go in mind. I never went in with that in mind, essentially. I went just, I'm going to have a great summer. And then I come back and I was like, wow, this is the actual catalyst that my career has spiraled off from, essentially. It's what got me my first job at the university, talking about my experience volunteering in different areas. So I think it's important to start thinking about, and it doesn't mean that has to be abroad either. I know some people might have children. A few people who come to camp with me, as you can see in that top left picture, a few of them also had children, and they come away for the summer and had that experience for themselves, which was absolutely incredible. But the typical age range of somebody going is, say, 18 to 25, a bit earlier than that. But I wouldn't sort of push it out of the way, even if you are older, because I think it's something that can benefit absolutely anybody. I'm going to go to the next slide and just give you a few bullet points on some of the things that you might get from it. So cultural exchange, living in a different place, being able to experience different cultures. How do they look at inclusion? How do they work with individuals? And then also personal growth, professional development, absolutely huge in comparison. Monique, do you want to share some of your experience here in relation to some of these things on this list?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. So in terms of me stepping out of my comfort zone, this was massive for me. I used to be one of those students that would stand outside lectures and think I can't do this, and then get back in my car and go home. And actually, to think that I would end up doing this as an experience is just insane. And actually, all I've done is learn from this, that actually I've got much more direction as to what I want to do. So I wasn't really that I thought I had my career. I'm an assistant Senko, work in secondary education, and I fell in love with working with the youngest kids that we had on camp. And I thought, no, there's no way I could work with the little people. But actually, my growth as a practitioner was broadened so much by this experience on camp, and actually had quite a closed mind, I think, to my career path and what I wanted to do. And actually, this has been probably the best thing that's happened to me in terms of now moving forward. And it seems like it's, you know, you said that some of the people are around up to 25. I'm nearly 33, and I was thinking, oh no, I'm going to be like the pensioner of the counsellors. But actually, I wasn't. There was people older than me. It was incredible to network with such a range of people, and absolutely the cultural experience and seeing inclusion from a different culture is exceptional. And it really is powerful to take that experience and apply it to your work when you get back. And applying that to study is very helpful, because you can't just learn about inclusion. You have to really experience it, and you really will get that experience from this sort of opportunity.
Thank you for that, Mon. In terms of meaningful work as well, it's something that you come home, and as somebody said in the chat, I think it was Stacey, you come back as a completely different person. You see the world in a different way, because you've connected with so many different people. You've gained so many different skills in terms of communication. We had to learn American Sign Language. You have to learn body language. You have to learn how to de-escalate situations. Imagine sometimes you've got a cabin of 23 different individuals with different needs, and you're going around doing all these activities like rock wall, swimming, boating, etc. And it's making sure that all those activities are inclusive. So it's a really full-rounded, I would say, opportunity that somebody can take, essentially. If you're thinking about, well, actually, what's going to make my CV stand out? And maybe I'm interested in stepping outside of that comfort zone a little bit, not only for professional reasons, but also maybe for personal reasons. I know a lot of people that have gone to camp that it has changed their perception, and a lot of people that have gone with anxiety have come home without it. It really does sort of alter those perceptions, and it gets you into a different habit loop. Sometimes it's a bit sad when you come home. I know Monique is craving going to see that little boy back in the first picture, because she's returning again the next summer. But what I'll do is now, if anybody's got any questions, you can ask them. I'm just going to pop up my YouTube channel there, which I'm still yet to add to. You can imagine working 16-hour days, it's quite hard to upload to YouTube. But there's some videos on there if you want to hear a little bit more about what the type of experience, what it can give you, as sort of in that toolkit when you go into a professional environment, how those skills are transferable, what you might learn working a summer at camp, then you can look there. And then on the right hand side are our Instagram pages. Mon What Does Camp is Monique Watkins, who you can see, and she documented her camp experience, as did SCO in the USA. That's one of the other students who come with me, and I'm sure that they'd be happy for you to have a look at their pages if you'd like to. Okay, I can see a few messages coming in. How much does it cost to go to Camp America? So it'll cost, as a first timer, I believe around £500. You get your accommodation paid for, you get your food paid for. The only things that you'd have to think about are on the weekend where you're going out, so Friday night, Saturday day. But you do get paid also whilst you're at camp. And when I say get paid, I mean pocket money. You don't get paid an actual salary. It's like a couple of £100 every other week, but it's enough to get you by. But it's worth it. For 2 or 3 months abroad working, £500 is like a caravan holiday in the UK for a weekend now, isn't it? Any other questions from anybody? If not, I believe we're done.
Thank you so much. And do keep those questions coming in. I can imagine now that students up and down the UK are logging on to Camp America. So we have a surge of interest, but to share your inspirational stories and how that actually took you outside of your comfort zone and continues to enrich what you do, and to be able to bring that back to your practice. So I think it's very brave. And I think something you said, Monique, stayed with me in terms of, being the student who perhaps was reluctant and hesitant. And I think we've all been that student. We've certainly all been in those situations. And then to see how something that can broaden your horizons like this by looking at different cultures, by looking at how things are, we only know what we know, basically, don't we? So I think it's only when you take that leap of faith and you have a look and you undertake these experiences that you can really grow in ways that you can't imagine. So wonderfully inspiring. We do no, thank you. I'm going to ask now if NCFE colleagues and panelists, our guest speakers, if you would like to turn on your cameras, and we'll see if we've got any further questions. We do have one in the chat, and Stacey is interested to know, this is one for you, Star, how different was it, this experience, when you took your students with you?
It was incredible. I was so proud of them all, and I think the connection between the two, sometimes a lot of people go to Camp America and they don't have a lot of experience, so taking students who do have a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of background knowledge, really helped the charity as well. So they were very strong, really proud of them all. Yeah, they were brilliant, Stacey.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
I imagine
Thank
they
you.
would be. I just thought, as a previous teacher, I was thinking, what would it be like having that dual role of going and doing Camp America yourself, but also having this responsibility for all of your students as well. So I was just interested to see, but I'm sure pride is the thing that really is at the forefront, isn't it?
Fantastic. Thank you. Please feel free to pop questions into the chat. And also Monique is inviting you to get in touch via that Instagram account also for any more advice on Camp America and the steps to take. One question that I've got, and then sort of again keep on coming with questions in the chat, but NCFE colleagues also feel free to jump in with any questions. Laura, I've got a question for you, if I may, and very interested in the journey that you took, and about that residential childcare worker, if somebody was doing an early years or an educational level 3, so they've not got that residential childcare qualification, you talked about an equivalent and you talked about a bridging programme. Can you just recap a little bit to reassure some of our students?
So within all sectors that we work, we're guided by guidance and legislation. And within the residential care sector, there is the Children's Homes Regulations, and it outlines what we all need to have in order to work with children. It does state that you can have an equivalent. So for people who are thinking about entering residential care, and you have a health and social care or an early years qualification, what we specifically have designed is a qualification to bridge your gaps in knowledge. We've called it the bridging programme, and we run it to cover 4 main areas that aren't within any other sector. So we look at keeping yourself safe as well as keeping children safe. We look at entering the care system, what the legalities are, what the different sections are that children will enter under, etc. We look at positive outcomes and how we can achieve those. But also we look at what's meant by attachment and trauma, and how we can support that within our profession and our practice. So we've designed this for anybody who's looking to come into the sector to almost prevent them having to redo a qualification again. I know that it can be quite off-putting for people who come into residential care, and I'll probably be slapped for this, but I would challenge anybody to challenge that, because the regulations do state that you need to bridge your gaps in knowledge or address areas that you're uncertain of or that aren't covered in your current qualifications. So please don't let that be a barrier for entering into the residential care sector, because actually it can be. And if anybody wants to talk to me about the legalities, I will be shot for that. Please do not hesitate and contact either yourself, Janet, to get my email address. I'm more than happy to have conversations with people about entering the sector. We're very lucky. We want to have many, many, many lovely people coming in to support our vulnerable children.
Amazing. Thank you. That's absolutely amazing. Thank you. I'm going to take a question from Angie, but before I do, there's just one in the chat, and I'm not sure if we do. I've put the regulation, by the way, in the chat there. That's the Children's Home Regulations. Am I right? 2015. Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
Certainly are. Thank you, Janet.
Okay, lovely. And I don't know if we've got Emma Booth still with us, but there's a question in the chat about the steps that you need to take to be able to get that position of a prison play worker. Is Emma around? If not, because there are obviously teaching commitments as well, then what we'll do is we'll make sure that we speak to Emma on your behalf, and we'll make sure that those questions are answered when we send around the PowerPoint. So thank you. Angie.
It was really just for you, Laura, just to let you know, because you may have missed it in the chat, and I didn't want you to go away without missing it, that somebody wanted to praise you for raising an awareness and promoting residential care, because it's, lots of people don't hear about it. We don't hear about it as often as maybe some of the other areas. And so I just wanted you to know that they wanted to say thank you for promoting it, because they too are a manager and really wanted it promoted. And
that's lovely. No, so it's not something that I would have ever known about. My advice to all students that are listening is grab every single opportunity that you can, because you just don't know where you're going to end up, and you don't know what's out there without being curious. Absolutely. Thank you, Angie.
Love that. Isn't that wonderful? Stay curious. That's something that we should all do, isn't it? And the commitment that we've seen through our guest speakers and through yourselves joining the conference today, amazing. The passion and the commitment to make that positive difference is just threaded throughout this community, and I love it. I just want to sort of, I don't want to force people to ask questions. So what I'm going to do is perhaps ask our NCFE colleagues and our guest speakers if they could sum up one word of inspiration as to why we should enter this sector. Oh, we have got a question. What would it be? So you can be thinking about that. And I think the question we've got in the chat now, I think Laura might also be for you. It's about, would placements be offered in care homes? Would that include any placements in prisons for, you know, working with the youth probationary services, for example? Do you have workers in that environment, or is it literally working in residential care homes? I may have misunderstood that question, so do feel free to come off mic.
Confusing, that one.
Where can you work with this qualification then?
With this qualification?
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's as I said, it springboards you into 90% of working with any form of children. Like I say, the qualification itself is working with, and I hate the term, so I'm going to be very, very loose with it, children with challenging behaviours. They're not even challenging behaviours, I won't get into that, but when with the qualification in residential, any prospective employer or provision can see that you have got a qualification that represents children who have experienced significant difficulties in their lives. So yes, it would. When I did my degree in childhood studies, which is a shame that the ladies, I don't think, are here anymore, we had play workers as well who come into our sector, youth work sector, and who work in prisons and promote play in prisons. Every single qualification is so heavily interlinked that I really think that needs to be embraced and promoted. It can take you anywhere, so don't be afraid to try waters that you're unknown, because actually they can take you anywhere. So yes is the answer. I would say you can use them all together.
Fantastic, thank you. And I guess there's placement opportunities while you're training. The more placement opportunities and the more diverse they might be, then the wider your understanding, I guess, as well. So fantastic questions, thank you. And lots of questions around play work and a prison environment. I think we're introducing sectors that students maybe are thinking about for the first time, and that's really, really useful and beneficial for students when they're plotting their next steps. So, as I say, we'll keep the chat open for a little while longer, but Amy, I'm coming to you first. If you were summing up a word of inspiration for our students in terms of, you know, where to go next, what words of inspiration?
I would say to follow your passion. So if you've got a specific passion in young children, say babies, follow that passion. You could have a passion in SEN. You could have so many different, forest school. Oh, forgot to mention forest school. You might have that passion as well. And if you don't have a passion, try everything that comes your way, because something will click within your experiences, and you can then run with that. So that is how I would sum that up.
Fantastic, some really good advice there, very insightful, thank you. I think that goes across us all, doesn't it? No, never give up and take whatever comes your way and remain true to your passion. That's wonderful. Laura, anything to add to that?
I just think don't let academia be a barrier. I know that a lot of people who are entering into professions working with children, in whichever context that is, qualifications can sound scary. You're entering very vocational qualifications where it's about what you do and how you present that matters, and the academic side of it can be fully supported. That's our role as tutors and as teachers, to get that bit right for you. You shouldn't just be a round hole and a round peg. You know, I think for us tutors, we need to be very diverse in our way of thinking, and please don't let qualifications put you off. Be curious and grab the opportunities.
Fantastic, fantastic. Angie, anything to add as we come to closing remarks?
Yeah, thank you. And it just sort of follows on, and particularly with Amy, with your journey, I was really inspired how many complete bumps and turns that you've taken as well. And I think for that, and then somebody else said something about, oh, you know, they keep mentioning age, and I think age should not be a barrier either in that. People say, oh, I'm too old and I'm this age and I'm that age. I think age doesn't matter, and I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but you're never too old and it's never too late. There's always opportunities, because something will come along and you can build on that. We all adapt, and we've all done that, you know. So I think adapting, we learn, we grow, we develop, and so it goes on. That's what we encourage children to do, and that's what we should really be inspired to do ourselves within our own career journeys. So thank you.
Wonderful, thank you, Angie. Stacey, anything you'd like to add?
Just before we come to a close, what I'd really love to add is that we've got so much more for you to explore on our toolkit. So if I could share the toolkit
yes,
with everybody,
please.
Janet, that would be wonderful. So on our NCFE website, oh, you don't want to see all that chat, do you? You certainly don't. You want to see the Education and Careers Toolkit, Education and Early Years Careers Toolkit. So on our website, we have an Education and Early Years Careers Toolkit. It's under sector specialisms, as I said earlier. And the toolkit really is there to support you in every step of your journey, because you may be sitting there right now thinking, I haven't really got a passion yet, or I don't really know where I'm going. And now I'm even more confused because there's so many different paths. And this is really there for you to go and have a look and explore for yourself and take your time. So we have all of the T-level information and all of the career pathways and all of that sort of stuff. But we also have this wonderful tile here, which is inspirational journeys. And in the inspirational journeys tile, there's lots to do with different pathways, such as going to university and learning about mental health. We've got Laura Thornley doing a little bit of an article there on residential childcare. We've got HLTAs, as we've listened to today, play therapy, and lots of different journeys here for you to explore and discover, and just listen to other people and just be inspired. What we also have on this careers toolkit is a CPD section. So if you haven't discovered what your passion is yet, it might be whilst you're watching one of these webinars, listening to one of these podcasts, or reading one of the articles that are on there. There's a section for you to reflect, because we can all go on these training courses and our practice stays the same and nothing really changes. But if we really take the time to reflect, it can have a massive impact on what you're doing. So we've got a contemporary issues and debates, and as you can see, lots and lots of different areas here for you to delve into, find more about, and listen to others about all of these different areas. We've also got some upcoming webinars as well that you can log on to and register for, and the student conferences, because we had, as Janet said at the start, this is our 7th time. So all the past student conferences can be found in this toolkit as well. In fact, the more I look at this toolkit, the more I absolutely love it. It's just massive. There's so much for you to explore on there. As you can see, we do a SEND conference. We've got lots and lots of different information here for you to have a look at. Angie, I don't know whether there's anything else you want to add to that before we close.
No, I think you've covered it all, Stace, going through a whirlwind tour there of the toolkit. But there was one little area that I know that somebody brought up in the chat earlier about, you know, raising the profile of TAs, raising awareness. So we have got that teaching learning as well. So as Stacey just showed you, so do take a look at the different areas, because what we try and do is encapsulate everything in there. As well as youth workers, resi, all sorts. So please don't think it's just one particular area. We're trying to sort of broaden it to make sure that it, you know, it really connects with what you want out of your career. So thank you, Stacey.
Okay, Janet, is there anything you want to add before I close?
I would like to ask if you would read through your reflections, because I thought that was wonderful. And what I will say, because we'll leave on that, because I think it would be a really nice reflective statement for us to leave on. But I just want to say a word of thanks to NCFE colleagues for all their time and support, whether they're presenting or attending. Thank you very much for your support. And of course, to our wonderful guest speakers. You just make this come alive, and you're inspiring each and every one of our students. And then, of course, that leads us significantly to the tutors, to the assessors, to the training providers, schools and colleges, and all of the students that continue to make that difference every single day. Thank you and good luck with your journeys. And I'll leave it to Stacey now, just to close with that reflective comment. Thanks, everybody.
Today, we gather not just in a physical space, but in a realm of endless possibilities and boundless potential, the realm of education. As you embark on this incredible journey through your early years of learning and onto your future careers, I want you to remember some fundamental truths. Firstly, education is not merely about textbooks and exams. It's about discovery, curiosity, and the joy of learning. Every lesson, every challenge is an opportunity to grow, to expand your mind, and to become the best version of yourself. Don't be afraid to ask questions, to explore beyond the confines of your comfort zone, for it is in those uncharted territories that you often find your true passion and purpose. Secondly, embrace failure as a stepping stone to success. Each misstep is not a setback, but a lesson in disguise. Winston Churchill once said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." Your journey will undoubtedly be filled with ups and downs, but it's the resilience you develop in facing those challenges that will define your ultimate triumphs. Furthermore, remember that your education is not just for personal gain, but for the betterment of society as a whole. The knowledge you acquire is a powerful tool. And with great power comes great responsibility. Use your education to contribute positively to the world, to solve problems and to make a difference in the lives of others. Lastly, never underestimate the power of passion. As you progress through your education and career paths, seek out what truly excites you. Pursue your interests with fearlessness, for it is passion that fuels perseverance, and perseverance that leads to excellence. As you stand at the threshold of a journey that will shape not just your careers, but your character, embrace the challenges, celebrate the victories, and never lose sight of the magic that comes with your learning. Your education is not a destination, it's a lifelong voyage. And may your educational journey be as enriching and inspiring as you are. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And on behalf of all of our team, good luck